The digital clock on the nightstand glows with silent judgment. 3:03 in the morning. The house is still. The world is asleep. But for millions over the age of 55, the mind is inexplicably, frustratingly wide awake. That dull ache in the joints, the low hum of anxiety about the day to come, the feeling of exhaustion before one's feet have even touched the floor. This isn't just a sign of getting older. But what if this nightly interruption wasn't a failure of willpower, or stress, or a lumpy mattress? What if it was a biological alarm, signaling that a critical, automatic system has gone offline? A forgotten, brainwash cycle that, once understood and reactivated, could be the key to reclaiming deep, restorative sleep for good. This is not about sleep hygiene. It is about neuroscience. For those navigating their 6th and 7th decades, sleep often changes. It becomes lighter, more fragmented. The 8 hours of rest that once felt rejuvenating now feel like a series of brief, unsatisfying naps. One may blame it on a dozen different factors: hormonal shifts, lifestyle changes, the accumulated worries of a life lived. While these play a part, they are merely symptoms of a much deeper process. The true culprit operates in the silent, dark recesses of the sleeping brain. A remarkable discovery, only fully illuminated in the last decade, has changed everything scientists thought they knew about why we sleep. It's called the glymphatic system. Think of it as the brain's exclusive, overnight cleaning crew, a biological dishwasher that only runs when the conscious mind is powered down. Throughout the day, as the brain works tirelessly, thinking, feeling, remembering, why it produces metabolic waste products. These are cellular toxins, the byproducts of all that mental energy. One of these proteins, beta amyloid, is particularly notorious. During waking hours, these toxins accumulate, clogging the intricate pathways between neurons. This leads to that feeling of mental fatigue, brain fog, and slowed thinking by the end of the day. This changes everything. When one enters deep, non-REM sleep, something magical happens. The brain cells actually shrink by up to 60%. This dramatic change opens up channels, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to be pumped along the outside of blood vessels and wash deep into the brain tissue itself. It flushes away the accumulated toxins, carrying them out to be disposed of by the body's lymphatic system. This is the brainwash cycle. It is as vital to brain health as breathing is to the body. But what science is now discovering is that this nightly cleanse is not automatic. It can be blocked, and the primary culprit for its failure after the age of 55 is a subtle shift in the very architecture of sleep itself. The glymphatic system activates most powerfully during the deepest stages of slow-wave sleep. As people age, the ability to achieve and maintain this profound level of sleep naturally diminishes. The sleep cycles become shorter and lighter. The brain simply doesn't stay in that deep cleaning state long enough for the glymphatic system to complete its work. So when the clock strikes 3 in the morning and the body jolts awake, it's not random. It can be a physiological response. The brain, still laden with the previous day's metabolic waste, is essentially sending a distress signal. It's too clogged to function properly, disrupting the delicate hormonal and neurological balance that keeps a person asleep. The result is a vicious cycle. Poor sleep leads to an inefficient brainwash, which in turn leads to even poorer sleep. This isn't just about feeling tired. The consequences of a chronically undercleaned brain are profound and far-reaching. Research from institutions like the University of Rochester, where the glymphatic system was first defined in 2012, has linked its dysfunction to a host of age-related cognitive issues. When toxins like beta amyloid are not cleared away night after night, they can begin to clump together, forming the plaques strongly associated with cognitive decline. Consider this. After just one night of poor sleep, the brain can see a 5% increase in beta amyloid plaque. How many nights has it been for some? The fatigue one feels is the first sign. The difficulty finding the right word, the misplacing of keys, the feeling of being perpetually overwhelmed. These are not inevitable parts of aging. They can be direct results of an interrupted brainwash cycle. The body is sending clear warnings that its most critical maintenance process is failing. This leaves many feeling trapped, turning to sleeping pills that provide sedation, but not the true, restorative deep sleep required to trigger the glymphatic system. These medications can force unconsciousness, but they often suppress the very slow-wave sleep stages that the brain desperately needs. It is a temporary fix that can exacerbate the long-term problem. It's like turning off a fire alarm without putting out the fire. The immediate noise is gone, but the underlying danger continues to grow, silently, night after night. This is a problem that cannot be solved with a pill. It requires a fundamental reset. The solution lies not in forcing sleep, but in creating the perfect biological conditions for the glymphatic system to activate on its own schedule. It requires speaking the body's own language, a language of temperature, light, and specific nutrients that signal safety and readiness for this deep cellular work. It is about an intentional, science-backed evening routine designed not just for sleep, but for brain restoration. So if supplements and standard sleep hygiene, like avoiding screens or caffeine, are not the complete answer, what is? What if the key lies not in what one takes, but in a specific sequence of actions one performs in the 90 minutes before bed? The entire process begins with a counterintuitive step involving temperature. The body's core temperature naturally needs to drop by about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate sleep. This temperature drop is a primary trigger for the release of melatonin. As one ages, the body's internal thermostat can become less efficient, making this crucial temperature drop more difficult to achieve. Many attempt to solve this by making the bedroom colder, which can help. However, a far more powerful technique is to trick the body into initiating the cooling process itself. This is achieved through strategic warmth. About 90 minutes before bedtime, introducing warmth to the body through a warm bath or shower, for example, brings blood to the surface of the skin. This seems wrong, but it is essential. When one gets out of the warm water, the surrounding air temperature causes that pooled blood at the surface to cool rapidly. This, in turn, leads to a significant and sustained drop in core body temperature, sending a powerful time for sleep signal to the brain. The ideal duration for this warm immersion is approximately 20 minutes. It must not be scalding hot, as that can raise the heart rate, but comfortably warm, a temperature that promotes relaxation without stress. This simple temperature shift is the first trigger, the first domino to fall in the nightly restoration sequence. But it is powerless without the second element, a specific type of sensory input that tells the brain it is finally safe to begin the deep cleaning cycle. And it has nothing to do with meditation apps or white noise machines. It is a far more primal signal. This next step involves the deliberate management of light, specifically the color and intensity of light in the hour before sleep. The blue light emitted by televisions, smartphones, and even standard household LED bulbs is a well-known suppressor of melatonin. It effectively tricks the brain into thinking it is still daytime. While many are aware of this, they often underestimate the profound impact a small amount of blue light can have, especially on an aging eye whose lens may have yellowed, altering light perception. The solution is not just darkness, but the right kind of light. One must create a digital sunset in the home. This means switching from harsh overhead lights to low-wattage lamps, preferably with bulbs that emit a warm, amber, or red hue. This mimics the light of a setting sun or a campfire, a deeply ingrained ancestral cue that signals the end of the day and the imminent onset of a period of safety and rest. This specific spectrum of light does not interfere with melatonin production. Instead, it supports it. This prepares the brain. It quiets the alert centers. But to truly unlock the glymphatic system requires one final, crucial piece of the puzzle, a biochemical key. It involves a specific amino acid, found in a handful of surprising but common foods. This compound does not induce sleepiness directly like a drug. Instead, it acts as a precursor for neurotransmitters that regulate the sleep cycle's architecture, ensuring that one can reach and sustain the deep, slow-wave sleep needed for the brainwash. It is the raw material the brain needs to do its job. This specific amino acid, L-tryptophan, is famous for its presence in Turkey, but its most bioavailable sources are found elsewhere. To use it effectively, one must understand the role of insulin. You see, L-tryptophan doesn't get a VIP pass into the brain. It has to compete with a host of other amino acids for transport across the heavily regulated blood-brain barrier. Consuming a big protein-rich meal, thinking you're loading up on tryptophan, can actually backfire, creating more competition at the gate. The secret is to give tryptophan an unfair advantage. And the key to that is a small, strategic release of insulin. A small portion of a smart carbohydrate, about 30 to 60 minutes before bed, triggers a modest insulin spike. This insulin tells the body's muscles to absorb those competing amino acids from the bloodstream, effectively clearing the highway for tryptophan to cruise directly into the brain, where it can be converted into serotonin, and then into melatonin. We are talking about something small, a handful of tart cherries, which are also a natural source of melatonin, or even a teaspoon of raw honey in a cup of caffeine-free herbal tea. This is the final biochemical signal, the master key. So there it is, The perfect trifecta. A core temperature drop initiated by strategic warmth. A digital sunset to allow melatonin to flourish. And the right biochemical precursor delivered with a VIP pass into the brain. A sequence so powerful it seems foolproof. Follow these 3 steps, and your brain will enter its restorative self-cleaning cycle every single night. Right? Wrong. Utterly and completely wrong. Because what if I told you there is a 4th protocol, a hidden failsafe, buried so deep in our primitive wiring that almost no one knows it exists? What if you can do everything else perfectly? The bath, the lights, the nutrition. And still, night after night, your brain refuses to open the floodgates. What if, on a deep, primal level, your brain believes that entering this state of deep restoration is a deadly risk? What if your own mind is the greatest obstacle to its own healing? This is the silent saboteur of sleep. We've been focusing on the mechanics, the how-tos, of activating the lymphatic system. But we have ignored the gatekeeper. Deep in the oldest part of our brain, in the brainstem and the amygdala, resides a function we can call the primal sentinel. The sentinel's only job is to assess threat. For hundreds of thousands of years, its purpose was to keep us from sleeping too deeply if a predator was near. A rustle in the grass, the snap of a twig. These signals would keep the sentinel on high alert, preventing the brain from entering the vulnerable, unconscious state of deep sleep. It was a brilliant survival mechanism. But here is the terrifying truth. The primal sentinel cannot tell the difference between a lion in the bushes and an unanswered email from your boss. It cannot distinguish an impending tribal war from a looming credit card bill. To this ancient part of your brain, a threat is a threat. The modern world has not given us saber-toothed tigers, but it has given us something far more insidious. Chronic, low-grade, psychological threat. And it never, ever turns off. This feeling of unresolved threat has a name in biochemistry. Cortisol. And cortisol is the direct chemical enemy of deep, restorative sleep. It is the emergency override switch. It screams to every cell in your body, do not rest, do not repair. Stay alert, danger is present. This is the missing piece of the puzzle. This is why you can have the perfect evening routine and still wake up feeling tired and foggy. You can warm your body, dim the lights, and eat the right nutrients. But if that sentinel is still on duty, if your cortisol levels are elevated by even a fraction from the day's residual stress, the command center of your brain will forbid the lymphatic system from activating. The janitors are ready to clean, the water pressure is good, the gates are waiting, but the city is on a permanent, high-alert lockdown, ordered by a guard who is still fighting yesterday's battles. So how do you get the guard to stand down? How do you send a signal so powerful, so deeply and fundamentally reassuring, that it can override the constant hum of modern anxiety? It's not about meditation, which for a truly stressed mind can often feel like just another battle to be won. It's not about listening to calming music, which the sentinel can easily ignore. It requires speaking the sentinel's native language, not the language of logic or reason, but the language of sensory input and physical safety. It involves a conscious, physical action that communicates directly to the brainstem, a signal that says, the watch is over, the perimeter is secure, you are safe. This is not a metaphor. It is a physiological command, a neurological off switch for fear. But what if I told you that for most of us, this switch is not only forgotten, but it's been wired backwards? What if the very things you do to try and signal safety, the deep breaths, the positive affirmations, the desperate attempts to relax, are actually being interpreted by the sentinel as a confirmation of danger? Think about it. Why would you need to convince yourself you're safe unless you fundamentally believe that you are not? This is the great paradox of the primal sentinel. It doesn't listen to what you say, it listens to what you do. And the act of trying is an act of struggle. The real signal of safety isn't a technique you apply, it's a state you must inhabit. So how do we stop trying? How do you signal safety without signaling the effort of signaling? You do it by changing the very nature of your attention. The sentinel is looking for a fight, for a problem to solve, a threat to analyze, a worry to magnify. So you refuse to give it one. You surrender the battle for your mind, and instead, you drop anchor in the physical reality of your body. Tonight, when you lie in bed, I want you to perform a radical act. Do not try to clear your mind. Do not try to relax. Instead, simply feel. Feel the weight of your head on the pillow. Is it heavy? Light? Notice the exact sensation without judgment. Move your attention to the feeling of the blanket on your skin. Is it soft? Is it cool? Can you feel the specific points where it touches your shoulders, your arms, your feet? You are not trying to change these feelings. You are simply receiving them as raw, neutral data. This is the Sentinel's kryptonite, because this act of pure, non-judgmental sensory awareness offers it nothing to fight. You are not saying, "We are safe." You are presenting it with undeniable, moment-to-moment proof that right here, right now, in this bed, under these covers, you are physically secure. There is no lion. There is only the pillow. There is no impending war. There is only the weight of the blanket. You are starving the fire of anxiety of its only fuel, your attention. And in that moment of profound physical truth, the ancient guard finally stands down. It has no more evidence of a threat. The perimeter, it concludes, is secure. The watch is over. A signal cascades through your nervous system. Not a thought, but a deep, biological sigh of relief. The cortisol ebbs. The emergency override is disengaged. The command is sent. Lockdown is lifted, and the healing begins. The janitors flood the city streets of your mind, washing away the metabolic debris of the day, polishing your neural connections, restoring your brain, cell by precious cell, so you can wake up not just rested, but renewed. This is just one of the countless hidden protocols your body is waiting for you to activate. We have been taught to fight our bodies, to command them into submission, but the real path to wellness isn't a battle. It's a partnership. It's about learning the language your body already speaks. If you're ready to stop fighting and start unlocking the incredible, innate healing intelligence within you, subscribe to Better_Health. Join us as we rediscover the blueprint to a life with more energy, more clarity, and deeper rest. Click subscribe, and let's get well together.